What's up, everyone? This is a pretty special episode of the Mint City Soccer Show. So you're hearing us a little bit pregame or before the episode actually starts. I'm David Gusler, one of your hosts. I'm here with Matt Swift. Say hello, Matt.
Hello.
So we had a really special time here tonight. We really wanted to encourage you to stick around for this whole episode because we just had an amazing conversation and interview with the sporting director for Charlotte Football Club, Zoran Krneta. And Matt, it was an awesome conversation, right?
Yeah, he answered a lot of questions I think that everybody has had on their mind. So yeah, I encourage everybody to stick around for the full thing.
Yeah, we discussed, building Charlotte FC. We talked about building legacy. We talked about MLS refs. We talked about Enzo. No, I'm just joking. We talked about a bunch of different things there, right? So, but it was a lot of fun. There's actually some really good quotes in this interview as well. We actually talked about turf at one point in time too, Swift. So it was a great interview. Zoran is very kind individual to spend the night with us doing this interview. So big kudos to him for sticking around. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I am one of your hosts, David Gusler. I'm here with we're twinning tonight, Matt Swift, my co-host, Matt Swift. We're wearing the same thing. It's like we called each other before the show started and wanted to match our clothing attire. But we've got a very special guest here tonight, Matt, and I'm sure no one wants to listen to us matching and twinning here a little bit, but we have Mr. Zoran here, sporting director from Charlotte Football Club. So Zoran, thanks so much for joining us. We are truly honored to have you here joining the show.
Matt, David, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Zoran, I've wanted to have you on the show for a very, very long time. And we've talked before offline, but I definitely wanted to get you on the show to, have you answer some questions that I think a lot of fans are, wanting to ask you. So we're going to do that for them. So what I want to do first, since this is the first time we've had you on the show, and we're, in year two, I want to go back a little bit for when we were supposed to kick off in 2021. We were delayed a year. If you could go back in time a little bit with that initial roster build, is there anything that you would do differently? Was the delay a benefit? Was it kind of a hindrance at all, or did it really matter?
I think delay was necessary considering the COVID and what happened, and probably empty stadium, which would be total shame. I mean, we had 74,500 people at the openings. Yep. But on the other hand, its delay just proved what was happening with Major League Soccer is getting better by incredibly much better every year. So if you look at, I done a lot of studies and analytics of Major League Soccer last 10 years, and the league is last 5 years, especially after COVID, become a really much better league. The better players, the better coaches, the better tactics, the simply more fans, the new stadiums. So I think it's in general the league become a really better league, and potentially that league normally would require better players or better suited players, shall I say. If I have to go back now, I would focus on more MLS players, American players, or MLS players already based in the league. Mm-hmm. There are various reasons outside of potentially front office control why we didn't focus as much. When you're building the first time squad, you need to work very closely in cooperation with your first coach, and you need to kind of give him tools to kind of what he see as his vision of how he wants to play, which way he wants to play. And then we had a coach that we wanted to back up as much as we could possibly. And we tried. And in the cases that we were not sure about certain signings and players, we were insisting on loan deals. And you guys know who were on the loans and who did not. So we had a bit of a backlash from very early days about in specific American players, MLS players, experienced MLS players. And if I can go back now, I would add a core of the team. I would add 3 or 4 very experienced American players. Another issue is that those players become very expensive very quickly. So what 5, 6, 7 years ago were 200, 300,000 GAM very quickly become a 2 million plus. And in case of, I'll give you some examples, Paul Ariola become a 2.4, 2.5 million GAM. And you suddenly look at that and you say, wow. And also it wasn't for the 100% of the player. It was only for like, I believe 30 or 40% of the player. It's because the other part was belonging to foreign club. So suddenly you get a totally different challenge. How much you spend and what is the real value of some of these players who become very expensive very quickly, and how do you balance that?
One other question that I had for you, when we were building out the roster, we had the capability of loaning a couple of our players out to the Charlotte Independents. But to me, it's not like you can build a whole roster and have every single player go out on loan. Is that correct, or is that something that like, oh yeah, we could have done that, we just didn't really want to go that route? Or how difficult is that really?
We wanted to kind of do this kind of hybrid model of yes, we are making a pause of 1 year, but we also want to entertain our fans and show them some of the players we're getting. So we got Sergio Ruiz and we loaned him to Las Palmas when he had a fantastic first season, become a captain. Then we bought Riley McGree and loaned him to Birmingham City when he had very, very good second part of the season. It took him a few months to get kind of used to it on a demand of the championship in England, and become a better and better player. And then also we brought Christian Fuchs and Bram Bronico and Adam Armour, and then basically we thought this is the best way is to kind of make some agreement and partnership with Charlotte Independence and put them in front of our fans in kind of able to kind of maybe utilize some of the marketing, PR opportunities. So that was all planned. There was a strategy that going forward what we were doing. In ideal situation, to be honest, we should probably get few more and place them in Independence, because it will be beneficial for the young players, especially if you go for under 22 initiative players, to place them, to give them a 30 games a season, regardless of the level. The better the level is, of course, it's more beneficial. But even if the level is not the best, for the young player to play 30 games, it was important. So Bram Bronico never had more than 20 games before a season, and suddenly he had the 31 or 2 in the Independence. And I think it made him a bit of a player like he is now. That experience helped him a lot coming to our first season.
Nice. Yeah. I know people had some questions about that, and I just want to kind of get some clarification. And I guess also too, like when you're approaching a player to bring them over, you're like, hey, we want you, but we can't take you now. You got to find another home. And I know that's difficult for other teams and other managers that probably are wanting to move that player on for financial reasons or roster reasons. Was that kind of an issue for you guys early on? Like, hey, when you're approaching a player, like, hey, we want you, but you actually have to go somewhere else first for a year. Was that ever a problem, or was it pretty easy?
It was incredibly hard, Matt. I'll tell you why. I'll give you the situation of Riley McGree. I mean, he's in Australia. He's a talent. I can't travel to Australia. Nobody can travel. He can't come to Europe or USA. We are on a Zoom. We are courting him, trying to do this deal for probably 4 months, 5 months. Throughout the whole process, we don't have a name of the club. We are called Charlotte MLS. So we signed both Sergio Ruiz and Riley McGree without the real name. Okay, the name at the end did not kind of differ much, but the bottom line, I don't know any club in the world who signed a player without the club having a name. And I don't know many players who are signing for the club that don't have a name yet. don't really have an atmosphere. They don't know what is going to happen. And so that these challenges, I mean, COVID just it made it 10 times more worse, and more difficult and more actually problematic. I'm not trying to find any excuses. Of course, we also made mistakes, and in this business in particular, it's normal, and it's kind of very easy to make mistake because we're dealing with the people, and you never know who, no matter how good someone is a player in a certain environment, in a certain country, in a certain club, in a certain league, how is he going to kind of transfer that qualities into the new league, new country, new environment, new group of people, and especially when we have a new club. That we also, in addition to bringing players, you have to build a culture, you need to build identity, you need to build a style of play, you need to kind of bring all these people together first time and start working together.
Yeah, and you mentioned if you went back, you would incorporate more MLS players as kind of what you just described, a part of that. Like they already know the league, even though this is a new team without a name, they know what they're getting into, and also too, were you kind of maybe surprised by the level of experience and maybe professionalism of MLS players? Were you kind of shocked at all?
Not professionalism, but the level certainly of toughness of the league. Demand of the league, physicality of the league, yes. Okay. We watched the league a lot, but until you start playing, you don't really know. Until you start seeing a week after week after week, everyone was saying difficult league because of traveling, and you're saying okay maybe, but then you realize when you start traveling and that takes the toll of the players. And I'll give you an example. I know we played against great Inter Miami right now, and Messi and Busquets and Jordi Alba and all these players, the incredible roster that they managed to somehow fit together. But we were totally gassed the fourth game in Miami. The players were tired, as simple as that. They could not. The last 2 goals the Miami scored, the goals scored against the very tired team. They could not run anymore, and this is because of the Dallas and Houston trips and traveling, and everyone's saying heat. It's not only heat; it's traveling. It's going there. It's being there in a hotel, waiting for a whole day for the game, going to. So it's totally different if you're home and then you just 3 hours before the game you jump in a car and drive to the stadium to play the game.
So speaking of traveling, how often are you going to these games, or do you get to watch them from home like everybody else, or how often are you having to travel?
I think I missed 2 games so far in 2 seasons. I travel with the team all the time.
Whew. Have you gotten used to all the travel?
I have an incredibly loving and understanding wife. So she understands my job, and it makes things much easier. But I think it's important. We are still a young club. We're still building a lot, and I think it's important for myself, Bobby, Jolibu, our president, to be around the club, to be around the players, to be around and also you see a lot of interesting moments during the travel. How everyone reacts on winning, losing, playing well, playing badly. All kind of things that are important to kind of have a bigger picture.
Yeah. And David, I know we have a lot of fan questions. I want to get those, but I want to jump in real quick. I want to ask you something, Zoran. Us fans have a tendency to be impatient with players, especially I think foreign players. What would you say to fans that, say I don't want to give like a specific player, but like someone that's come here, they've been struggling, but it's only been half a season. What do you say to the fans in that regard? How difficult is it for folks to come here and really get acclimated from your point of view? It's
not easy, and I'll give you some example. I remember it was a long time ago when Nemanja Vidic moved from I believe Spartak Moscow, Russian league, into the Man United, and after 6 months he made a debut, and he was playing Burton Albion. I think Emre, the left back, and him making a debut together against Burton Albion in FA Cup, and at half time I think they were both substituted, and the commentator was saying, "Who brought these 2 players in Man United?"
Yeah, he was so good though. So
And
yeah,
he became a captain of Man United, and the rest is history. So every player. I mean, if you look, I can tell you about Luka Modric a little bit. He came and took him about 3 months to start kind of really bossing the Tottenham like midfield, because it takes a lot of time. The players come from leagues that are different. That even if the player comes from the Premier League into the MLS, I mean, Ashley Westwood came and it took him a month and a half, and he had injury as well, unfortunately, to kind of get really for the fans and all of us start seeing who really Ashley Westwood is. And we knew, but the fans watching him first 2-3 games, they might think, I'm not sure this guy is he good enough anymore, Okay. And then he's getting better and better and better. So I think I would ask the fans, if you look at some of the great players of MLS or whether domestic or the foreign, they all have 5 or 6 seasons behind them in MLS. And if the fans remember how they played the first half 6 months or 9 months in the first season, so that's kind of is comparison.
I will take notes because I'm guilty of being a little impatient with.
I think we're all guilty of that, Swift, a little bit, right?
So, yeah. It's very difficult. Sometimes you have a younger players. The 20 years old comes, first time ever. He doesn't speak the language. Maybe the way he trained, the way he eat, the way he prepare for the game, for training is totally different from what we now trying to build. And then suddenly his whole life changing. And very often he's leaving the family, leaving the loved ones behind. So that's an added problem. Suddenly, America is a fast-pacing country. So wherever town you go, it's cars, the highways, the life. It's quick and fast. And suddenly these young players, need to kind of adjust very quickly. And the fans are always expecting them to perform at the highest level. But all I would say, just give some of them patience, because and wait a little bit, because I think that all the young players that come, they require time and a little bit of a kind of understanding if they make a mistake or two.
Let me push you just a little bit here. As a sporting director, how much time do you give a player that is struggling and you're like, okay, maybe this is not going to work out? I'm not going to name anybody specifically, but like in your head, like what is your time frame for making that decision, I guess?
Depends on the player and the age. The older the player, the less time. I mean, it's kind of understandable. The veteran players should adjust quicker. The players with experience, the player that have certain age, the younger the player, we give them more time. We are more understanding. We're trying to work out what is missing, and which part is he a game? Is he a psychological? Is he a mental? Is he a physical? What part is the one that needs to be, the player needs to be helped and improved?
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think Bobby Blair and kind of his team, when a player comes into this country, they kind of help them get acclimated. But where do you kind of fit in that regard? Are you talking to these guys when they first get here, like daily, like, kind of are you a little more hands off and let Bobby kind of take the lead there? But how does that dynamic work?
I think we are very hands off. All of us. It's not really only Bobby and his team. Bobby is a huge part of all that. But we have Kuzak, Anna, and a couple of people from their department. This year we started this little idea program that my wife volunteered to kind of help to organize the partners, girlfriends, wives of the players into the group that kind of meets and organize and do some things together, whether it's a lunch, whether it's some charity event, whether it's something like that, and then that way, when the new player comes, then we sometimes bring the partner into that group straight away. So then they get all this information. For example, Jere Uronen was really worried, and same as Brecht, about the family. He didn't know about Charlotte, didn't know much about North Carolina. And then they have young kids. I mean, Brecht, the Jagere wife is heavily pregnant, so this is all new for them. And so we kind of parallelly, while we're talking to the player and agent and about the system, the playing style. All of us, including coach Chris Latanzio, we all take turns to talk to the player. Then this group of partners are talking to their own partners and trying to kind of ease their worries. Which is the best area to live? About schools, about beauty products, about where to take the kid for the walk, all kind of things that you'll be surprised how many questions they ask. And fair enough, it's their lives. They're moving from one continent to another, from one country to another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, David, I've asked a ton of questions now. Sorry.
You're good, man. No, this is good. And Zoran, I just want to give kudos to you. And you said your wife volunteered with that program. That is such a humanizing and impactful thing for some of these folks, right? Their family, their kids, their loved ones are coming into a country that they could not even speak English, right? And it really does help translate, kind of get them acclimated and feel at home faster and better for them quicker. So kudos to your family and everyone else for helping out with that space for it. But I'll transition to a few questions that I had for you, Zoran. So I know when you were talking earlier about reflecting back with Swift about the past 2 or 3 years, what's been some of the biggest learning curves from you coming from Europe and coming into a new league like MLS?
Well, you have to learn the players within the league. So that's one of the things that you need to learn very quickly, because coming in a position of sporting director or GM of the club, you need to recognize the players. Okay, of course, you have a team, you have a very good scouting run by Thomas Schalling, and Bobby Belair is very, very active in that field for us. He's a technical director now, and but you still have to understand the players. You need to know the who are the players. So it takes time. You can't, coming from Europe, coming from European soccer, it takes some time. What coming from Europe gives you that potential is advantage, that then knowing European market a little bit better, the major players, you have information flow will be maybe better and quicker that you can get. So kind of that, kind of give or take. You need to quickly learn about the market in the US, and of course, as you guys already said, and I confirm, it's still surprising me how quickly MLS is growing, and obviously now with the little number 10 that show up for Miami recently. I think with Leo coming in this country, it's in this league, it's going to be a nothing short of revolution, I hope, and will help the soccer grow even more in the States.
How crazy was it to come over and learn what MLS rules are when it comes to like salary and roster spend? So coming from Europe, you have your budget and what you can and can't spend, but now you add in the layers of like things like DPs, TAM, GAM, all these different acronyms and different rules from it. How difficult was it to be able to get acclimated to that and get used to that style of system?
I'm getting used to it, but I'm still learning. And very recently, I spoke to someone within the league, and I asked about confirmation of something specific. I can't really share what was asked, but they basically said, well, this is why we call it guidelines, not the rules. So I said, okay, that's interesting. So they are guidelines. So that means it can be interpreted in a various ways. It's incredible, but it really is unique. And obviously, very unique for American sport, because you have NBA and NFL rules and baseball rules, but it makes life much more difficult, especially when you're dealing with foreign agents and foreign players and foreign clubs, and you're trying to explain to them some of those rules. I was always dreading sending the first offer to a foreign club for a player, and then they come back to us with 2/3 of the offer in red, because their lawyers would be like saying things like, oh no, we can't have this, and we're like, okay, this is a standard, this is MLS, this is different. And so it's a challenging, it really is challenging. So this is very difficult to do a deal in MLS in a 24 hours, so the deadline day is hard in MLS.
I mean, deadline day already by itself is a stressful and hard day, not let alone adding in all these different rules, right? But I also like that you said that there's guidelines, right, versus just rules sometimes. That's where we can kind of push the envelope from time to time. It's kind of like Swift and his kid, right, where it's like, oh, you can kind of do this, but not really. But
negotiate.
Negotiate. There you go. So, I mean, Zoran, just from a person perspective, how have you liked your time here in Charlotte so far? I know it's been you've been here, what, 2.5, 3 years. I know a little bit of that time was within COVID, but have you enjoyed the city? What's some of the things that you've enjoyed so far?
I'm incredibly impressed with Charlotte and North Carolina, Carolinas in general. We came from London. We obviously had certain reservations. We coming from London, big city, cosmopolitan, multicultural, and one of the best cities in the world, if you like. And then we came here. We didn't know what to expect, and we love it now. We feel like we lived here for 20 years, and we have friends, and the people in Charlotte, people in North Carolina, South Carolina are so friendly. They're so nice. We absolutely love it. I mean, I honestly think that we had a friends for life, and I used to have a few other clubs that I was supporting around the world, as obviously not officially, but kind of. But now the Charlotte would always be my club, no matter what, and how long I stay, and best Charlotte ends up being, it would always be my club, and I'll always follow all sports in Charlotte. I like going for Charlotte Hornets towards the games. I obviously love watching Panthers, following that closely. It's a fantastic place, and it's growing so fast. I mean, Uptown is almost unrecognizable from 3 years ago when I arrived. There's probably about 6-7 new buildings, and so for us, it's for both my wife and myself, we absolutely love Charlotte.
How big is that for players coming in? So I know we've heard that a lot. Like I think Ashley Westwood's been saying how he loves his time here so far. I know you just said how much you like it here. How big is it to be able to kind of say like, hey, you're kind of close to the mountains and the beach. It's a growing city. It's different, right? Is that a big selling point for a lot of players if you have to bring them in, or even coaches or scouts, etc.?
Absolutely, but the problem is only now we're building that momentum that we can actually go to people and say, speak to Ashley Westwood, speak to Zoran, speak to this. Because before, when we were, the year one, of course, if the sporting director says, oh, the city is not very nice and the town is not nice, and nobody will come, so they don't really trust me. But now, when all the players are here, they spend some time, they raving about the city. Ashley loves it. Scott Airfield loves the city. Brett, the Akere now love the city. There are so many players who came within the last year that actually getting kind of accustomed to living in a city, loving the weather, the people, the kind of culture, the food, everything really. So it's much easier now. It was difficult before when we were talking to some players around the world. We were like a Charlotte, and they say, Charlotte what? Where's Charlotte? And then a few of them would like, oh, Hornets, yeah, I know. But it's now we have a kind of, hey, look, 35,000 people average, Bank of America Stadium, great atmosphere. It's a different, totally different world now. How to present Charlotte.
Well, not only on top of that, sorry, Switch, I mean, to cut you off, but real quick, not only that, but when you were first getting here, it was middle of COVID, so no one from the team even knew really what Charlotte was like at that point, right? Like it was a totally different world at that point in time. And so now you've just been able to learn what it's like. And, as someone that's born in Charlotte, but been raised in Charlotte my whole life, it's a great city to be able to see some recognition finally. But over to you, Swift.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask, has it been a shock that we've been able to have 35,000 fans average, and then, having 75 at the home opener? Like, was that kind of a shock to you at all?
Well, we were discussing a lot before the first game and the first season. We were discussing and talking a lot about how many people we'll have. But to be honest, not in my wildest dreams. I would expect 75,000, and I would expect 35,000. I read somewhere that we were 44th club or 40th club in last season in the world by attendance, and I think we were just ahead of Lille, France. And then there's some big name clubs behind us. I can tell you that. So it's incredible. I mean, the year one, when I tell the people, sporting directors or the scouts or the agents, of the clubs in Europe about this. They're like, "Wow, how say again?" And that will be the normal kind of. So it's a tremendous job by everybody within the organization that actually they managed to kind of build this. And obviously the fans are fantastic, and we have, in my opinion, some of the best fans, if not the best fans in MLS. That's for sure. I mean, and they are incredible.
I agree. So we talked about before maybe some of the things that if you could go back, you would change. But let's talk about maybe in the past 2 years, what are some of the things that you think that you and your team have gotten right? What are you most proud of?
Look, we built a team from zero from nothing into something, and this team is. We always had a plan. We looked at the various options and strategies and scenarios. How are we going to kind of go for it? Of course, we had a set budget given to us, and that we discussed as well with the ownership, and then we looked at how do we going to go? Are we going to build quickly? Do we get one big name and we tried to build around that name? And we thought that this is the old MLS. I think the new MLS is changing a little bit. And then we said, okay, let's try to build something that is every year better. So we basically become a powerhouse of this league. After 3 to 5 years, we are kind of constantly playoffs. We are fighting for the trophies. There is no question whether we're going to be in playoffs or not. It's going to be of course, they are in playoffs. Just a question whether we're going to win MLS or we're going to lose in the final or semi-final. Because of course, once you're in playoffs, it's a one game basically. Anybody can have a bad day, which I don't particularly like, that one game concept. I like this year that at least the first round of playoffs have a little bit more kind of uncertainty. So I think that we built a good team. There is some very interesting young players. Unfortunately, we had to lose some, like Riley McGree was someone that I really feel sorry that we had to lose him. The previous head coach did not particularly like him for whatever reason, and then we had to kind of find the best possible way to move him out of the team, because if he's not playing, he's not good for anybody.
Sure.
But he was very interesting young player that now played in the World Cup and played in and then we tried to kind of build a team that you can easily improve and add. That was the part, So I think it's a good group. The first year we had a late finish. Unfortunately, the what happened around the change of the coach affected us a little bit. But at the end of the day, the group actually proved that they can play very good soccer and very good football. So I think it's that part is I'm proud. We kind of finished strongly. It was a great last 5 or 6 games, and the team was looking obviously for this season more than anything. And we had an incredible start of this season for 7 days until this incredible tragic accident happened, and that actually kind of put us back a year. It almost kind of sent us back to very beginning, and we all felt that that there's a big hole, and suddenly that big hole had to be somehow filled, and we're not sure how to fill it, how to go forward, and a lot of players were affected, some more, some less. Yeah. The front office, the people around the club, they're all affected. Of course, it's you talk to someone in the morning and then suddenly it's gone in the evening, and it was probably the most difficult part of my life, to kind of wake up the group in 6 o'clock in the morning and tell them that one of their teammates, friends, brothers has left us. So it was hard, and all that kind of continued with some other problems that well documented, with a couple of senior players that since left us. So that kind of that great momentum that we had the previous year suddenly kind of stopped and become a very strange season that we had in the first part of the season. For me, it's you see that we played well some games, we losing games. It's kind of, you can see that there is a way more in a play than just a game of soccer. So I think basically that's. But still, after you're looking at all this, and you say, okay, there is a legacy. We started through COVID. We build a team. We build the fan base. We build the kind of commercial PR group. We had an incredible young team, full of energy, working in across all the departments in CLTFC. So I think it's the really, if you say what I would be most proud of, is kind of legacy that we actually build this club. We can win the game or lose the game. That's part of the sport, unfortunately. But I think there is a legacy being built, and there is a club that will forever be in Charlotte, in North Carolina, always be Carolina's club, always be Carolina Blue, and that's something that myself and the rest of us are incredibly proud.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes, right? Sorry, Swift, and that you're able to build a legacy and something that's special, right? Where you're able to say, hey, this is something that I was a part of from the very beginning, from scratch, and be able to build up. You also built legacy during that entire time, right? So speaking of a legacy that you helped kind of instill, what was it like having to build Crown Legacy during that entire time? We talked about MLS Next Pro, of course. We first talked about how we're going to have this kind of, if you like, feeder club, or a club that will help us building the talent. And then we looked at USL, and then obviously that this great idea by Major League Soccer came about to build the MLS Next Pro, and then we obviously jumped straight away into that. And then it's Crown Legacy. The fitting name is exactly what I just said. We build the legacy, then we're now continuing to build the legacy for this club going forward. It's incredible. I can tell you the story about how we get Jose Tavares. I knew since 2019. I interviewed him in London. We liked him. It wasn't the right time. And then when we start talking about Crown Legacy, we basically, connected to Jose again. And we said, Jose, look, I know you won the Champions League, Youth Champions League with Porto. I know you have, beat Porto. I know you had probably, through your hands came like 20 players worth some $300-400 million in. But, the next step should be US MLS Next Pro, building the legacy here. And then he loved it. He was really passionate, and he is the passionate coach, very good coach as well, very good human. And basically, he agreed, and him and Pedro, his assistant, came, and then we added a few of the coaches from our academy, and so basically this is how it all came about. Darius Barnes, Bobby Belair, Thomas, the whole group. We all built our own parts, together. It's a great name, great brand. I think the right thing to do is to play a little bit further outside of Charlotte. Matthews is a great place. That stadium is fantastic. The perfect stadium to kind of have a understanding, identity, brand, a culture of that club. And it's the players already coming through that club. It's if you look at Ajamang or actually Brandon Cambridge, and those kind of players potentially would not be part of the first team if it wasn't for the Crown Legacy. The Crown Legacy gave them a stage, so for them to go in and show who they are, what they can do, and then basically move on very fast into the first team.
I do have a question about legacy. I've been wanting to ask this because I'm very curious. One, I love Jose and his hat choices. One, but two, how does the dynamic work? Because I know he's trying to win games, right? But he's also trying to develop players. So you have Patrick that may have played midweek, but you want him to have some more minutes during the weekend. Do you go to Jose and say, hey, I really need you to play Patrick 45 minutes, or hey, I need you to play Hagar this amount of minutes. Like, how does that communication work where, he's trying to win a game, you guys are trying to like develop talent and move people in and out of the squad? How does that all work?
Well, we have meetings today, for example. We had a meeting every Monday. We have a meeting about exactly what you just said.
Okay.
Every week, every Monday, and then we usually go for one more meeting, and then obviously discussions in between. If there is some development, during the week, if there is some injury or some issue, some problems, or if the Chris Latanzio wants some more players for the first team, or he will release few players from the first team to go to train with the legacy. So it's a liquid. It's not like a set in stone. We're discussing every week and trying to find the best possible solution for both teams. But I think it's the legacy players going from legacy to the first team. They're benefiting from the very strong, tough training environment, intensity. Then, of course, then they're going to if they don't have a minutes in the first team, then they go to legacy and get those necessary minutes for the young players. So, there are a few other players, actually knocking on a first team door, and a few players had injuries. Nikola Petkovic, the Serbian under 21 captain, he's coming back. I think he's training this week fully.
That's good.
I hope to see him against Toronto on Friday. Also Thiago, the Brazilian midfielder that we really like, he's coming back as well. He played a few minutes against Miami. Yep. He looked really tired for these 20 minutes. He's obviously coming back after a long period of not playing, just recovering and training. So I think there's a David Pareba, Mayaka, also Brian Romero is getting minutes. Ulin Fasha is only 15, is getting minutes. So in our opinion and how we see it, we wanna win the games, but we also want to develop. And it's not easy to kind of do the two things at the same time. But this is why I think in Jose we have a coach who has this pragmatism of I want to win, but I also want to develop. And I think he's doing a great job right now.
So Zoran, I know you were talking about building legacy and going back the past 2 years building Charlotte FC. From the philosophy perspective and having to build the roster, I know when we first got the club and a lot of early interviews, there was a lot of talk around building through the spine, right? And now that you have a second team in legacy, how has that helped kind of build what you envision the team to be looking like? And what do those conversations look like between Crown Legacy, scouting, the first team, et cetera?
It's really mixed. Scouting is one scouting is headed by the Thomas Scharling, and we have regular meetings once or twice a week, scouting meetings. I'm part of some of those meetings, some of I'm not, but it's Ben Green is focused on a legacy. Also, is Thomas and his team. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to first see what is in our academy, and this is where we're looking first, and what is in North and South Carolina. Then after that, what is in America, like a Brandon Cambridge type of thing. We brought Brandon for $50,000 GAM from Vancouver because they didn't see in him a talent that we have seen. And then at the end, then we look foreign markets and say, okay, who is the player that has a clear pathway to the first team, aka Nikola Petkovic, because he's a player that can play in the first team and will play in the first team. But this period of acclimatization that we gone back earlier, when we talked about how important, I think it gave him a fantastic a starting point for the first team, because he now speaks better English, he understands traveling, and he's traveling with a Crown Legacy. There is no charter traveling, there's a proper traveling where you go commercial flights. So it's a bit of a tough. It's good to be tough with these youngsters. Yeah. They need to learn the ropes, if you like. So I think they go through this kind of period of getting tougher, getting used to it, playing on a heat that he never played before, and those kind of things. And then we look at the players like a group of Brazilian players, and we're looking, okay, they are talented. Let's give them a year and see which one of those players would be progressing well, that we can see clearly progress, and we can see, okay, now maybe another half season or season in Crown, and then after that ready for the first team, and so it's it's Crown Legacy in many ways is a game changer for us, because when we were building the team first year, we had to have 30 players, because you have to have a players that train with you, and you can't bring them from the academy because we had literally kids. You can't bring 14 years old to train with the first team. Then you make a mockery of the first team training. And then now we have a players who can actually jump in and help and train and help the first team, but also help themselves to get better. Become a better players.
All right, so I think our fans will kill us, David, if we don't talk about recent transfer news.
Yep.
We talk about our new signings, and we got a lot of questions around that. But I guess what I want to ask you is, I was having some debates with some folks. I think everybody thought that there was definitely like a left back need, right? That was, for the fans at least, that was number one priority. Then we go out and sign some midfielders, right? And everybody's like, wait a minute, how come we're not signing a left back? And I try to tell people, is like, that's not how it works. Just because you have that need, I mean, they're probably working on the left back over here, but that doesn't mean we can't sign a midfielder now. But let me ask you this. Let me step back a little bit. We lead the league in goals against, and then we need a left back, and then you guys go out and get some midfielders. Can you explain the thought process of maybe enhancing the midfield, getting a different type of player? Why go after the midfield first as opposed to a left back?
We did not go to the midfield first necessarily. What we gone first is for the players that we identified earlier, and while waiting for the left back to kind of materialize. And then this is probably something that fans don't know, but we had right now in the top 5 leagues of the Europe, the 3 left backs that CLTFC put on offers, and they agreed the deals with the clubs. And for various reasons, these 3 players could not come to us. I've been following their progress. They are ages of 19 to 22. They're all playing on a top 5 leagues in Europe. Yeah. And we could not get them on time, or we could not get them for various reasons, whether it's agents or the personal demands or the club's demands, or simply the desire for those players to stay in Europe, not to come to Major League Soccer. And also in a Crystal Tanzio concept and playing style, he wanted a very specific left back. So that left backs don't necessarily walking around the world waiting for someone to pick them up. So we took some time for us to identify them. We have a certain processes how we identifying players. And for example, in addition to live watching and video watching and scouting, we also have data analytics. And if data analytics doesn't confirm to us what our eyes and technology is telling us, and our scouting telling us, then we don't proceed. So it takes time. So as I said, we were lucky at the end, because Jere Uronen were not available at the beginning when we started. Again, the soccer is this kind of business where one morning you wake up and suddenly you are available or not. So, and the transfer happens or don't. So Jere came literally maybe 3-4 days before we signed him. It took us 48 hours to do the deal. I mean, it wasn't available, and suddenly it was available. And once he actually found out that he's definitely available, then we tried to kind of finalize the deal as quickly as we could. So we always wanted a left back and a few other positions. And the fact that we brought a few midfielders, we also wanted midfielders, because you don't only conceive the goals because of the back 4. You sometimes conceive the goals because your midfield loses the ball. So we wanted to strengthen midfielders. And sometimes it's an interesting concept in sport. When you bring a good player in one position, you make you bring that player, but you also make the player that was playing in that position before better, because he's now suddenly have a competitor and he steps up a little bit. So we wanted to kind of make the team a little bit more competitive. And at the end, we also wanted to make a team a little bit more mature. We wanted a little bit more leadership. We brought Merrim, we brought Westwood, we brought Scott Airfield, we brought Brecht, because of that kind of maturity, leadership, professionalism. Because we looked at a lot of young players that we have around, and then we looked at the kind of the players that maybe need some guidelines and need some kind of role models. And it's very difficult to find a 21-year-old role model unless you can find him in Real Madrid, you know, and those are, you know, for us, for now, not available easily.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me press you a little bit on, so the formation, you know, we go out and get some midfielders, you know, we've been, you know, we talk all the time, David, on the show, like we give the ball away a lot in the midfield, and then our defense is immediately put under pressure. Has there been any talk about changing formation? Are you guys pretty set on 4-3-3, this is what we're going to run, this is how we're going to do it? Or have you guys talked about maybe switching it up a little bit?
You are asking me personally, or you asking me to put my coaching hat on?
No, I mean, can it be, you know, when you're in a stretch of a season and you know, maybe you're struggling, do you think about maybe switching to a different formation? Has there been any conversations? Are you guys, you know, coaching, front office, all pretty set, like, hey, we like this formation, we've got the players, it just needs more time? I
strongly believe that to be successful, you need to look at what you have first. In any organization, whether it's a sport or some other organization, when you walk into a Google, you look at who are my engineers, who are my people who I can rely on, and then you start building. So the same thing for me, when in a football organization, in a football club, you go and you see the players, and based on those players, you build the style. Yes, of course, we want to have attacking style. We want to have 30,000-40,000 people in the Bank of America Stadium. We want to make fans happy. We want to attack after attack after attack. But also we want to be pragmatic, and we look and we say, okay, if right now we don't have this position, maybe we can change a little bit. So that's what I believe. But it's also, you know, the Chris Lattanzio believes in certain style that we basically wanted to help him to play, and we try to back him up as much as we can. Same as I said at the beginning, every coach needs to be backed up by the front office. So front office should not be doing whatever they want while the coach wishes this and the front office doing something else. So it has to be alignment of a kind. Not necessarily has to be agreement over every single play or the playing style or every single game. That would be also wrong. But I think it's you know, the coach decides on the playing style, the coach decides on tactics, and his team, his coaches, and they are there to execute that. The job of the front office is to provide the tools, the players, for the best possible players to play the certain style that the coach wants. So to answer your question, it's better to be you know, pragmatic sometimes. And potentially we could have been more pragmatic at some games, some moments throughout the season.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to another question, because, you know, a lot of people have been asking about, you know, perhaps a formation switch, and I think one of the reasons why they're asking those questions is that we have kind of a dilemma, if you will, with Enzo and Swiderski being on the field at the same time. So far, it hasn't really worked so much, but Enzo's been injured a lot. And kind of to your point, you know, maybe we need to be a little more patient with folks and give them time to acclimate and get going. And it's hard to do that when you're injured. How do you see that relationship working Do you think it's worked? Does it need more time, or how do you see that playing out?
I think we are blessed as a club to have two number 9s like Karol Swiderski and Enzo. Not many clubs in Major League Soccer have two number 9s like that. If you look at the club by club, we can start now and find me 3 clubs that have the same number 9s. Yeah. Like that. And you know, I mean, number 9 is like kind of, I don't know, it's kind of quarterback. You know, it's in NFL, it's a most important player because you can build, you can put crosses, you can do everything. But if you don't have a player who can put the ball into the goal, it's not really, you're not going, you know, to go far. And but again, it's up to the coaches to kind of get them to work together because both of those players were approved by coach. You know, the Karol was here before, but Chris Lattanzio was here before as well. He knew him very well, and Enzo Copetti was Chris Lattanzio. You know, likes him a lot and values him a lot, and he was you know, while we always offering options. So every time the coach say, okay, well, we need this position, we discuss, do we need this position? Okay, we need. Then we come up and the scouting and us, we come up with 3 or 4 options. And so Copetti was one of the 3 or 4 options, and Chris Lattanzio was very highly kind of on the option list for Enzo. So Enzo was one of his favorite players that we were potentially trying to bring him. So he saw these 2 of them working together. They did not have much chance to play together. I know that we played in a way that Karol was dropping down as a number 10, not so much as a false 9, but more like a number 10, even as a winger. But I think they're both number 9, and I know a lot of teams that playing with 2 number 9s doing very well, and I can just mention Philadelphia or Cincinnati, for example, and I don't see that they have any problems playing with 2 number 9s. So,
yeah, they're doing pretty well.
Exactly, that's my point. So if nobody complains if you have two good strikers, on the contrary.
Do you think that Enzo has struggled acclimating, or do you think he's pretty settled now? That was one of the questions I think a lot of us were kind of asking and thinking about.
It wasn't easy for Enzo. He came from a very big club in Argentina, but before that he was in a smaller club in Argentina. Mm-hmm. So the moving from San Rafael into San Lorenzo was already a big move for him. And now, very soon after he moved to USA, his wife was pregnant. They had, from what I know, a couple of unsuccessful attempts of pregnancy. So they were very scared how this will all pan out. He was really worried. Wife was worried, and the wife gave birth, a lovely daughter, and all good, all happy. But that all take toll on Enzo. And then Enzo kind of started to kind of have his own game here in MLS, and MLS referees did not, particularly like some of that, some of the way he has his game or plays his game. Some of the behavior was a little bit more, what he brought from Argentina. So that took some toll. I mean, he was in some games he was unfairly treated. Sure. Chicago comes to my mind. I mean, I thought he had a couple of penalties in that game that the after talking to the referee organization after that game, they actually agreed with us. But so he was kind of treated harshly, and then obviously trying to learn English and trying to adapt to the American culture, trying to kind of work with a new team. While he's not like 19 years old, it was hard for him. It's only now he's getting better. His English is improving, and he's kind of getting better and better with acclimatization process and everything else. Unfortunately, he picked up the first injury, and then soon after second injury. So he did not have that kind of continuity of playing at 10 games when he gets kind of a little bit more confident, starting scoring goals and all that.
I'm very curious about something. So when, I think Swiderski kind of went through this too, where they're complaining to the refs, they're flopping around. Is that the captain's job or the coach's job, or do you kind of pull them off to the side and be like, hey, you gotta cut that out a little bit? Whose responsibility is that? Or is it just everybody's?
We definitely pulled both of them, after the games. We sat down with them and explained to them, and really it should be the captain's job mainly. I don't particularly like when the players trying to kind of change the referee's mind, because I never seen it work. So I don't understand why they're trying to do. But what is important for the players to kind of show the certain level of togetherness. When one is fouled, they all kind of get into the group and kind of try to protect their teammate and things like this. This is a unity. This is a togetherness. This is a group in action, if you like, and that's very important. But to kind of encircle the referee and trying to kind of argue with referee and threaten or everything, that's not really. It never gave results. On the contrary, it can actually get you a yellow card or red card, or referee is not particularly happy. So next start you'll get the yellow card.
That's very, very true. We've kept you for right at an hour, so I want to make sure I get to these next couple of questions. I appreciate you joining the show and spending this much time with us. A lot of people want to know, we got kind of the second half of the season. We've brought in some new players. What are some of the priorities for you, maybe next transfer window or this last half of the season?
Well, first of all, we have 11 games left. We had a decent run in the Leagues Cup. Mm-hmm. I personally thought that we could have present a little bit stronger game to Miami, against Inter Miami. I think because we didn't play badly. They just had 4 shots and 4 goals, and we had some shots and we couldn't actually execute. Now it's 11 games. It's 11 games to play for playoffs. We always said the playoffs is a target this year, and the next year will be to get improvements on all levels. We need to see what happens with Major League Soccer. Is there any changes within a salary cap? Any changes with categorization of player? There were a lot of talks about potentially internal transfers, so that would open up a totally different way of working. So there are a lot of unknowns. So we're waiting to see what happens. We have a regular meetings with the league, and we're discussing. We're trying to kind of change some of the things. One of the things that I'm very vocal about, I think having a secondary transfer window finishing on the 2nd of August makes no sense whatsoever. First of all, if we receive the offer, like look at the New England now. New England received the offer and had to sell, they goalkeeper to Chelsea, and great move for the goalkeeper. But how are they going to replace him? So they're trying to find a free goalkeeper who was free when the window opened. So it's not easy. But if we like everyone else finishing on the 1st of September, we could still be active. We could still actually sell the player, replace the player. We can also demand better deal. If the player has to leave, we can wait until the last day of the window and try to kind of extract the best possible price. A lot of other things. So I think we have almost 2.5-3 months in a primary window, which is very difficult to bring the players. Who wants to let you play in April? No club in the world wants to give a player in April. Everyone is fighting promotion, relegation, something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, for example, there are a lot of things that league is listening to us and trying to kind of improve. And I think these improvements will come in the years to come now. And for us, I think we want to improve better. We want to be a better team. We want to be a stronger team. As I said to you, we want to, next season comes, it's not even a question whether we're going to be in playoffs or not. It's playoffs a must. and then let's see how far we can go once we're in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think with Messi coming, there's got to be some new roster rules, maybe a fourth DP. You mentioned, discussions. Do you and maybe the presidents from the other teams get together and kind of push Commissioner Garber a little bit and say, hey, we need these things? Has there been anything said at all about since Miami's been able to do what they've been able to do? Has there been any discussions? You don't have to say specifically, but have there been discussions to maybe loosen up the rules a little bit?
Swift, that's where the guidelines come in, right? Versus rules, right?
Yeah.
It's I think there are ongoing discussions. I don't see anything being changed right now. But I think, as I just said to you, there are a few rules that might be introduced, like this internal transfers. I think they'll become a reality very soon.
Yeah.
And then they might, look, before we discussed a lot of things, but before Messi. Now Messi arrived, and now the actually dynamic is a little bit different. And I think that many owners are now taking notice, including our own owner. And looking at the effect that Messi has, and a few other players, and on the fans, on the TV, on the Apple, and how many people actually are talking soccer, how many celebrities coming for the games, how many. I think it's something that is not going to be stopped easily anymore. So I'm totally expecting to see more new ideas, new rules being implemented, new kind of benefits given to the club. I believe that also with the World Cup 2026 and the Club World Cup in 2025 in America, that I think we should definitely improve on the various levels and elements of the salary cap and budget charges and the categorization of the players. I think categorization in particular, I think it's a little bit kind of difficult to kind of navigate, because in my opinion, I would give the max and minimum what clubs can spend and let them go. And if someone wants to have 6 DPs and everyone else on a very little money, or someone wants to have 10 TAM players, so be it.
Yeah.
But so I think it will be more kind of regularization, if you like, I think, in the future. But let's see. I know that Commissioner Garber is actively involved and with the owners, and I think the changes are coming. I wouldn't know what changes exactly. It's still too early to say.
All right. One last question for me. And again, I'm going to have to push you just a little bit. You said upgrading the team. Is there any specific positions that you want to target that you can divulge?
As long as I'm in a position of general manager, sporting director of this club, not one single position is taken for granted.
Yeah.
So for me, upgrades are always discussed. Only upgrades. And I believe it upgraded the team quite substantially, considering the budget constraints that we had, because as we brought 7 new players from the last season that we finished strongly. So if you look at team now, there are 7 new players. All of them, I believe, are upgrade. Whether you're talking about Jere Uronen, who is a 63 caps for Finland, or like Enzo Copetti, Golden Boot of Argentina, or Westwood, who has 300 games in Premier League. All of these players are upgrade on what we had last season. So also, don't forget, we had this unfortunate incident with 2 players who were a huge strain on our budget. We could not put them. We managed to kind of mutually terminate contract with one, and we sold another one. But it took some time. It wasn't easy. It wasn't up to us. It was other parties involved, and so it wasn't like let's go on our market. We have plenty of money. We hardly had any, so we had to really wheel and deal in some way. But we still, I think, managed to bring a necessary experience and the improvement in quality and the positions that can play kind of a major part in this remaining 11 games.
All right, David. That's all I'm going to ask. Because if not, I will keep Zoran on here for like another hour. So that's all I'm gonna ask.
So I've got one question to kind of just piggyback off of like bringing players on, etc. Because there was a lot of noise, and this may seem silly to you because as fans, it sounds like it'd be important, but grass versus turf. So I know there was a lot of noise from that perspective, but does the surface we play on, our turf, does that matter to players now in this age and time? Because Messi even came out and said that, hey, turf's no problem. I'm going to keep playing on it, right, in MLS. But is that really an issue in 2023, or is it just a lot of noise from fans?
I think if Messi doesn't have a problem, I don't think Patrick Agyemang would.
It's good.
It's not really relevant as much as potentially some people think. Mm-hmm. And I think it's how you prepare the team, how the players are ready, how much they want to play. I'm looking forward to host Inter Miami and Messi on turf on a 22nd of October. And as Messi said himself, he played on the turf all his youth. So, it didn't stop him becoming one of the best players of all time. So I don't think it's a major issue. I don't think it's a major issue. I'm looking forward for us to play Inter Miami 2 more times and maybe kind of getting better results.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some revenge there, for sure.
That's exactly it.
Well, I've got one fun question for you, Zoran, because I know we're getting a little long on time for you here. But so, coming from overseas to the United States and coming into Charlotte, being in the South, have you tried anything that is like uniquely Southern that you can't get anywhere else except for here? And if so, like, what is it that you've enjoyed? Is it like Bojangles? Is it biscuits? Like what is it that you've tried here that you've really enjoyed?
I love the Southern food. I go often to the kind of like a chopped porks and like a and the chicken and the beefs. Obviously, the steaks are most amazing steaks I ever had in my life, and it's incredible that so I love Southern food. Unfortunately, and you can see it on me. I'm not against the Southern food at all.
I'm not either, Zoran, so it's okay. Yeah. I've lived here my whole life and I've enjoyed it. So
another thing is that the number of breweries. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, this is like it's like mosquitoes, man. It's like they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Charlotte and Asheville are the 2 biggest in the U.S., I believe. So it's crazy.
Yeah, per capita, we have the most breweries per population, which is crazy to think about. So you can use that to recruit some players, right?
I'm going to Rhino very early on into Rhino uptown, close to Raleigh, and I would look at the number of beers that they have, and it's like hundreds of different brands. Like, how do you pick? What do you do now? I mean, it'll take me 3 months to go through all these beers to find out which one I like. But yeah, no, I like Southern food a lot. It's a strong food, though. But the players are the players are not allowed, but I am.
There we go. Well, we'll have to. We'll send you some notes. Yeah, we'll send you some notes after the show on some places that we recommend for you if you haven't tried. So I know Swift has definitely got some good recommendations for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you think? What do you guys think about Leagues Cup and how everything folded?
I'll let you go first, Swift.
Yeah, we talked about this. I think it's you have to start somewhere. I think there's lots of positives. You can just build from here. I like the rules, the different rules. You are adding in a lot of extra games during the season. There's been some debate about maybe sprinkling this throughout the season instead of just all at one time. But I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the games. It's given me an opportunity to watch some other teams play, and especially some Liga MX teams. So I've really liked it.
Yeah, I'll echo that. At first I was kind of like, because I didn't really know what it was going to be, but just the competition level, how serious some of the teams have taken it versus, I mean, I really enjoy Open Cup, but it seems like the early stages of Open Cup when MLS is in it, you're playing a lot of depth and, maybe, Crown Legacy type players are playing in that a lot more. With Leagues Cup, it seemed like it was first team, group stage, the knockout range style. So I enjoyed it. I like Swift said, I think it's going to be able to be something we build off of in the future because it seemed like it went pretty well. And you add a player like Messi to it as well. That's always going to add some excitement for it as well. But I'm interested. How was what's your perspective on it, Zoran, from a Leagues Cup perspective? Did you enjoy it?
I think it's an interesting competition. It's a good competition to prepare you for playoffs because it's one game. It's like one of those, because when you play the league, okay, you lose, you win, you're still kind of trying to push, but this is one game, like a World Cup type of competition. Then, there's only one winner, and I think this is good for the players to strengthen them, to make them stronger. This is why I like the fact that we've gone through kind of stages and we go to the quarterfinals, because that gets kind of the team stronger. And if you look at certain players growing by every game, like Nathan Byrne or Andrew Privet or Jalen Lindsay suddenly kind of keeping that right back position. It's you see some of the players growing through, and this is exactly what happened in the World Cup. If you look at the World Cup, Enzo Fernandez, nobody knew who he is before the World Cup, and after the World Cup, 105 million is one of the biggest transfers in the history of the world, because this kind of game after game where he becomes stronger, tougher, better, and then people, So this is what I think is the Leagues Cup can help the young players kind of secure the place in a team, which I think is very, very important.
Awesome, I love it, man. So, well, Zoran, I know we've kept you here for a decent amount of time. It's been a lot of we had a lot of questions for you, man. So we appreciate your honesty and engagement and working through us with this too, and dealing with Swift and all his rambling there for a little bit. No, I'm just joking. So, but Zoran, we really appreciate it. Swift, anything over to you before we go, or Zoran, anything that you'd like to say before?
No, sorry, you're talking to me or Zoran?
No,
both, either one. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was like, don't kick it to me because I'll ask another question. Just Zoran, you take it away.
No, look, it's a pleasure talking to you guys, because I said to you, Matt, when I met you recently, whether it was the DC or the last game, I said I really appreciate you guys, because you actually, even when you criticize with the angle that makes sense. The law fans can say things without knowing the background, without understanding enough, deep enough what really is going on and how is it going on. So it's very important to kind of have that kind of approach where you basically, yeah, right. We all made mistakes, and I'm first one to say, hey, look, I made mistakes, and my group, but the key thing is to correct these mistakes quickly and realize what mistakes you have made and what you have done.
Well, we are back here, Swift, and that was a fun interview, don't you think?
Absolutely. Loved it.
Yeah, it was really insightful, some really good information there. We could have talked to him for 3 hours if we really wanted to, but it's been a fun time. But we would be remiss if we didn't mention our amazing sponsors of this show, Swift, right? And Chantry had to fill in for you last week. Now you've got the gloves here. So who was this show brought to you by, Swift?
Renegade Goalkeeping.
Swift is doing his new metal impersonation with the Renegade Goalkeeping logo there. So we would.
How many takes do you need for me to do tonight?
Well, we could just do this all night now if you really want
to. Renegade Goalkeeping. Block some shots.
I'm just going to sit here and let you just do more of those. No, I'm just joking.
That's all I'm going to do.
But no, I mean, big shout out to our sponsor, Renegade Goalkeeping. They've been very loyal to us and putting up with our shenanigans on this show already, and they get the show, which is great. So big shout out to them. Make sure you follow them on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They put some great content out, and make sure you tag them on any kind of photos or videos. If you're wearing their gloves, make sure you check them out. Well, on that note, everyone, we really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you follow us on social media. We have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm refusing to call it X, but Twitter's out there. You can follow us on Threads. I know we haven't got the show account on there yet, but I know Corey, Matt, and myself are on there. We've even got a TikTok, right, Swift?
That's right, TikTok.
So make sure you follow us on there, but make sure you do continue to follow us on YouTube. This is where these videos and episodes are uploading. So you can see our beautiful faces every single time. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Turn that notification on as well, so you get notified whenever the latest episode like this one with the interview with Zoran drops. So you'll be the first to be able to watch it. So appreciate everybody. Swift, anything else, man, before we let the fans go?
No, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks for
Awesome,
listening,
y'all.
everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great rest of the night.